Hey there, good afternoon. My name is Joel. I'm a registered dietitian and a chef, and welcome to my home. You can see I have my little daughter's drawings on the wall, and I know this is our first time sort of doing something like this, sort of cooking, learning distance for nutrition education, but I think we should just give it a whirl, have a good time, and I hope you learned something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus in on the food that I'm cutting up. We're going to go do some oven shots because I really want you to see the food. So, and then I'll talk you through it as I'm going so you can see what I've done. Okay, let's get cooking. So what we're going to start here with is a dessert. So we're going to make an apple crisp, which is one of my favorite things. My mom used to make apple crisps growing up all the time, and so it really is one of those things that once you make it a few times, you're really going to know how to do it, and you can control what goes into it. You can have lower sugar content apple crisps if you want. You can also switch up the fruit if you want. So it's really, really versatile. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a baking dish, and I've just got some vegetable oil. This is some canola oil, some good old Canadian canola oil, and I'm just going to put, I don't know, 2 teaspoons into a baking dish. And then, you know, I'm a big fan of tools, so I'm gonna actually just get my little brush and cover the sides with the oil. You could use a paper towel if you wanted to, but I think that having tools and not using so many paper towels will eventually, I don't know, I just prefer to do it that way. So we'll set that aside. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about our apples. So I prepped some apples in advance. And what you can see here is they're sitting in some acid water or acidulated water. And what that does is after I've peeled them and cored them and put them in this water, it keeps them from oxidizing. And so the oxidation would look like they would be turning brown. Other things that oxidize quite easily are avocados. And so the recipe calls for some Granny Smith apples. I did Granny Smith plus some ambrosia because I like that really tart from the Granny Smith apple, but I think the sweetness in the ambrosia really kind of balances each other off. So I'm just going to put this in a bowl, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my water out of the way because I don't really need that right now. So if you were just cutting up these apples right away, you don't have to do the acidulated water, but I did this in advance, and so that's why I did that, so they wouldn't turn brown. I just want to show you how to quickly peel an apple. What you're going to do is you're going to take your peeler and you're going to really use the peeler and sort of go from one top to the bottom. Some people think that you're really like turning the fruit as opposed to turning the peeler, and so it's kind of up to you, but you want to watch out for your fingers, and you just want to sort of go all the way around, and you know, you can get pretty good at this. It's pretty relaxing, but again, watch your fingers. So then we're going to take our peel, we're going to put it in our compost, and then we're simply going to cut our apple in half. You can see our apple's in half. And then we're going to take that half and cut it into a half. So notice how when I grab the apple, my fingers were tucked so I don't cut them. And then we're going to stand them up, and we're just going to take out the little bit of the core on the inside. You could use an apple core if you want. That's totally fine. But sharp knives and just some practice will get you coring apples like this really, really easily. So the other thing I do, which is why I like to cut them like that, is it makes a flat surface. So now I can just make a couple slices like that, and they're ready to go. So one thing I want you to notice is on my board is I'm having things that I will cut up, the things I'm cutting, and then the things that I have cut up already. So this is sort of board maintenance, and it allows you to have more of your board to work with, and it's a lot safer in the long run. Okay, so to this, we're going to add some lemon zest. So this is lemon zest. We're going to take it off of this. You can take one of these box graters if you want and use this side. But I think it's really handy to invest in a microplaner. And I really think that they provide a lot of benefit, and we're going to be using this throughout the recipes. So rather than sort of going like this with the microplaner, I actually like to turn it upside down. And I like to drag the microplaner over the top of the lemon to get the zest. And I think that one, you can see the lemon zest coming off. You can see what you're actually cutting. And then two, I think that it's just a little bit safer to do this because sometimes when you're going like this, you could grate your knuckle. And so I think that this is a little bit safer. So it's about half a lemon. We're going to put that in there, and then we're also going to take some of this lemon juice. So I've rolled it to sort of loosen up some of the juice that's in there. You could have zested the whole thing. And then we're going to take the lemon cut side up, and we're just going to squeeze it in like this. And that is, again, going to help with the apples not turning brown, but it's also going to provide some nice acidity. And then by having the cut side up, we're going to keep all the seeds right here rather than the seeds going in if we were to do it like this. Okay, so then the next thing we're going to do is we're sort of mix this together with our hands like this, and then that's pretty much it for the base of your apples. So again, we're going to take our pan, we're going to take our apples, and we're going to put them in here just like this, and then spread them out so they're even, just like this. Okay, last thing to notice, I cut these pretty thin, so they will cook a lot quicker if you, say, cut them, say thick, for example. The thin apple will cook, obviously, quicker. So in that same bowl that we had, we're going to make our topping. So we're going to take some flour. This is some chana flour, which is made from chickpeas. So we're going to add that into our bowl. We're going to take some butter and pull it out of the fridge. This is cold butter, and we're going to add this in here in a second. We're going to take some brown sugar that I portioned out, and we're going to take some salt, and we're going to take some white sugar, and we're going to take some walnuts, and we're going to take some cinnamon, and we're going to take some some cloves, sorry. So this is what a clove looks like. And a little goes a long way. And you can grind these yourself. You could get it already ground. I think it's totally fine. And then we're going to take some nutmeg. I want to show you what nutmeg looks like whole. This is what nutmeg looks like whole. And we're going to take that same microplaner, and we're just going to go over the top. And I think this is the best way to do nutmeg. One, because you're really getting the pungent sort of aroma coming off the top. And I think it lasts a lot longer in this whole nutmeg form. I just stored in a little jar. And then we're going to add in a little bit of vanilla as well. So, I don't know, just a hair of vanilla. And then we're going to take a spoon, and we're just going to mix this up. So, just to get it started. And then, because we are eventually going to get in here with our hands in the butter, you might as well just get in here already and just mix everything up. So we're going to take our butter. This is cold butter that has been cubed, and we're just going to add it in. And then we're just going to work this mixture in between our fingers, just like this. And we're going to do it until it sort of looks like pea-size lumps. And that is breaking up the butter into smaller and smaller pieces so it'll distribute evenly. Now you might think, oh, this is kind of like a lot of butter. You know, the research on saturated fat is really changing. The sort of consensus now is it really determines where the fat is coming from, so the source of the food. So, you know, we used to be sort of anti-fat, anti-saturated fat, and that is changing. And so butter is sort of being looked at in a different light. And so a little butter in your diet, again, is not going to be that sort of cardiovascular risk that we once thought it was. What it does contribute is calories, and so if you're concerned about the amount of calories in your diet, which is a whole other discussion altogether, that's something to discuss with your dietitian and your doctor, but for our purposes right now, we're going to use some butter. At the end of the day, our portion size isn't going to be that big, and it tastes delicious. So if you didn't want to do butter, if you wanted to do sort of a margarine or like a Becel product, you could. So we're going to take this sort of shaggy mass that we made, sort of pea-sized shapes, and then we're going to put it on top, just like this. And then we're going to bake it. And that's pretty easy. So put it in a 350 degree oven that's been preheated, and it's going to get bubbly, it's going to get brown on top, and then I'll show you what it looks like at the end.